Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our live session today. My name is Larissa. I'm an event planner at Reactor, joining you from Brazil. Before we start, I have some quick housekeeping. Please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We seek to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. While we absolutely encourage engagement in the chat, we ask that you please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional and on topic. The session is being recorded and will be available to view on demand here on the Reactor YouTube channel within 48 hours. Keep an eye on the chat. We'll be dropping helpful links and checking for questions for our moderators and presenters to answer. I'll now turn it over to our speakers for today. Thank you, and let's welcome here Mike and Brian.
Yay!
We did it.
We're live. It
Hello,
happened.
everyone. Welcome. Brian, hello. How you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great. Here in Denmark, it's very snowy and rainy. How about you, Mike?
I'm doing well. It is also cold where I am. So let us know where you are in the chat. Please engage with us. Let us know what area of the world are you calling in from? Are you watching us on here? We'd love to have you in the chat here. Just be very aware. This is going to be a highly engaging session. We are just going to talk about our experiences around languages, coding languages, how we're interacting with them. And you're going to want to stay to the end because slide number 15 is going to blow your mind. Actually, that's just a hook.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but we're going to have fun with it anyway. So let us know in the chat where you're from. And with that being said, let's jump right into our session. Let's get talking about similarities and differences between coding languages. Hello, welcome. My name is Michael Carlo. I am the owner of Carlo Solutions. I have a Power BI embedded solution called Intellexos. You may or may not have heard of it, but you may have heard of Power BI.tips. Power BI.tips is a website that I run. I also run, I think, probably the world's largest podcast at this point. We've got over 500 episodes of explicit measures conversations, talking about the water cooler, about Power BI, Fabric, data, AI, all the things bundled up into a candid conversation, hopefully a little bit of fun and a bit of information. Brian, over to you.
How do I pick up from that? Thank you, Mike. It's just amazing. Well, I'm Brian. I don't own anything other than my own company. I do a bit of blogging on LinkedIn. And actually, speaking about coding languages, I wrote my own reference guide for the KQL language. You could find it on kql.how. It's free of charge. You don't have to sign up. I won't track you unless you give me your firstborn or something. But kql.how is the way to go if you want to learn your KQL languages. Blogging on Brian Bong and ProBI is my newly started company from actually November last year. So
congratulations. Welcome to the business owner arena. We also run companies. Yeah. So this is awesome. So we have experts here. And again, I'm glad you're here because KQL is not my favorite, nor do I know a ton about it. The other languages I'm much more versed in. So Brian, I'm happy to have you also presenting with this. We're going to have a lot of fun with this. Regardless, we want a lot of engagement on the chat. So please ask your questions. If there's something that we're saying that's not quite clear, or you have your own experiences around working with these different languages, please share them in the chat. We'd really love for you to get engaged there and let us know about how you're interacting and using these different coding languages as well.
Yeah.
That being said,
I just scrolled quickly through the chat, and I see people from Brazil. I see people from South Africa, Michigan, Detroit, England, Dominican Republic.
Wonderful. Italy. I see some people from Italy. Hello, welcome.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. So for you who are joining, and if you have questions or specific things, we have 3 moderators with us today. These are our moderators. They will be in the chat. They will only be there during this session, during chat while it's live.
Yes.
And everything will be recorded here as well. So if you like this session and want to come back, you can always check it out later on YouTube.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And be nice to the moderators because they are doing all the work. Mike and I, we are just hitting next on a slide deck, and then we talk about that, and then we have fun. So be nice to all the moderators, please.
Check out Fabric Data Days. Every month, we have some more sessions. There's another Fabric Data Day coming on March 26th, 2026. Definitely make sure you use this link here, aka.ms Fabric Data Days Monthly. That's your link that you want to use. Go get your camera out. Check this out right now. If you want to learn more, we're trying to build a community around learning and educating and just having experts come and share our experiences with the broader community. This is super fun. We want you to get engaged. Make sure you say hello and let us know in the comments.
Oh, yes. But don't do it now. Please stay here on this live chat because we are going to have fun in a few slides. So.
If you have any feedback, if you want to join the Fabric user panel, we also have a QR code for you as well. Do you have an idea? Do you have some feedback you'd like to share? What would make your life better around the Fabric ecosystem? We need your voice. We need you to share with what you're thinking, what will make it easier and more useful for you on the day-to-day basis using the Fabric and Power BI ecosystem. Please join here, aka.ms Fabric User Panel /live to get more information and get engaged there as well. All right, everyone I've been seeing some notes here in the chat. Get your DP 600 or DP 700 certificate for free. Check out this link here as well. Again, there's another link here. You can also scan the QR code. This will let you apply to go get your certificate. And then the offer ends February 28th. We're getting close here. So this is only will last as long as we have supplies. So please engage quickly, use the link, and make sure you go and get your DP 600 or DP 700 exams for free. We're happy to have you do that. We want to, again, skill up and knowledge our community. Brian, are you coming to FabCon this year? You're going to be able to make it this year?
No, unfortunately not. The organizers didn't want me to come again, so
I'll take a picture with me. I'll bring it along. I'll bring Brian with me in a little picture format, and we'll bring him in spirit to us to FabCon.
Exactly. I'll be there in spirit. Yes.
FabCon this year is in Atlanta in March 16th through the 20th. It's Atlanta, Georgia, in the U.S. So I will be going. If you want to go meet me there, feel free to join. Not that you should come to FabCon just for me, but I'll be there working with the community and helping out and engaging with our community as well. There's going to be a ton of learning here. We really want to make sure that you would participate with this. Lots of sessions all around Fabric, Azure AI, databases. I even have a full pre-con session. We're doing an 8-hour session around Agentic AI development inside Fabric. So you want to get better? You want to learn how to write in your native tongue and build things inside Fabric or reports or semantic models? These are sessions you want to participate with. So make sure you hit this link. This will be really good. Also, you can save $200 with this live broadcast by using Fab Live on your discount codes.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
All right, let's jump into our slides here, our official slides. So let's talk about some code pieces. I want to just kind of explain here, just kind of some concepts. We've got a couple slides here just to kind of conceptually wrap your head around what is code doing. Code is just your communication style, right? This is how we as people communicate with computers, talk to them. And I liked this analogy that was kind of brought up. I kind of found this and to be very useful for me. There are different types of languages. And again, you'll see some here that are not directly inside Microsoft Fabric, but you're going to see just general language knowledge information here. And I could think of Python is very relatable to like English language. A lot of people know it. It's very commonly used. It's pretty easy to read. I really like writing Python. Actually, my career started writing code was in Visual Basic. That's where I started. I kind of started in Visual Basic there first. I then learned R a little bit. And then I thought, oh, okay, this is not that bad. And then I got to Python. I'm like, okay, this is useful. I really like the Python language. It was very understandable for me to then communicate to the computer. Yeah. You can also think of other languages such as like Java. Java is a bit more technical, but it's highly structured, incredibly formal. You have to write it exactly the right way. The syntax is incredibly important. And you could liken this to like the language of like German, very technical, very engineering, very specific around what it needs to be done. So you have to be very specific around that language in Java. And then also you could move on to like JavaScript. Every phone, everything on the websites, this is a universal language that's kind of everywhere on the front end. And have you ever listened to someone speak Spanish? They're very fast. Yeah. Brian, I can't keep up.
No, they speak extremely fast, and it also sounds like they mumble a bit, so they don't open their mouths so much. So it's almost impossible to hear what they actually say. And I'm not harassing any Spanish people here. It's just what I hear when I hear the Spanish word. So.
And they're so colorful with like, it's fast, it's vibrant, it's very fun. And so that's another kind of like a different colorful language that's being used. And you can think of that as like, that's like your JavaScript land, right? It's very fast, fluid, very fast paced. And it helps you quickly build a lot of like the most of the web that we're kind of interested in today. And so for me, these are kind of how I relate to different coding languages and how I'm hearing or speaking general language that I hear every day. So that's kind of a rough analogy here.
And also, when you write Python, you're actually quite open on your approach to writing it. You can write it as you want, whereas JavaScript is you have to write it in this way for it to work.
I think this is also a really good point you're bringing up, Brian, which is the idea that, you could say the same thing multiple different ways with English.
Oh, yeah.
You could say the same thing with German as well, but German has very long concatenated words that mean a very specific thing. So that's why it's a very precise kind of language. So this is where I kind of think about this. So let's step back and let's unpack the DNA of what code in general looks like. And I think these are some just general building blocks around what code potentially looks like, right? Code has these storage boxes, and we call them variables. DAX also has variables as well. So we can relate. This is a value that I'm storing for future use somewhere else. And then we have a lot of business logic or decision trees. If then, if this is this value, then do this. If this is this value, then do that. And so that's a lot of decision tree information that's being landed inside the code because you have to make decisions about what the data is doing or how the code needs to run. The next part of this was kind of like logic and rules. I think I'm kind of going like clockwise around this. So sorry if it's not like the way you normally about this one. It's like your grammar, right? This is the logic and rule. How do you define the structure of the code? And again, one of the aha moments for me has been, I think a lot about code in this is how I communicate to the machine, the computer. It's something that I can understand. But as we move more into the AI space, you're going to see this is going to change how you generate code in the future. And so this is a lot of your logics and rules. And do I need a semicolon here? Do I need a return? Python is very stringent on spacing. You got to have real spacing in Python for it to actually run and work. It has to understand like this is a function. This is how you put code in the function, and spacing is very much a part of that.
Oh yes. And Mike, this is actually the first 3D chart that I can use for something.
Right? It's not. It's not a pie chart 3D, but it's
it's still 3D, and it's not exploded yet, so I can still read it.
Exactly right. So then the last part I'll just kind of touch on here is automation, right? So much of my work has been, whether I was writing VBA, Python, any kind of coding language, I was regularly rewriting information, and it's about automation. Can I design the process once and have it rerun multiple times? I think this is the underrated value of just in general thinking about code, right? Don't copy data from one Excel sheet to the next. Build an M query process to automate that data loading. That is so powerful for you when you're learning M and Power Query and data flows. That is such a useful pattern. You have to learn it. It's got to be something you got to put in your toolbox. Any other thoughts, Brian?
Oh yeah, there's actually a good thought from the chat that I see that one of our attendees is saying that yes, Python is big on spacing. You have to do the right amount of space in order for things to work and loop. But also YAML, it's a completely different language where if you don't get the exact right space numbers, it won't work. So to me, these four variables, conditions, loops, and logics is actually whatever language you want to learn. You have to be aware of these concepts. Yes. If you don't know these concepts, you have to step back and then look at, hey, do I need to learn about Venn diagrams and processes and all the mathematics behind how does logic work? I have all these gates. I have an AND gate and an OR gate, a NOT gate, all those kind of stuff. You have to learn those and be aware of the basics before you jump into learning a new scripting language or just in any other coding language. Because if you don't get the basics right, you'll have a very steep learning curve trying to learn a new language. So
yes, I'm trying to teach my kids. My son right now is at that age where programming is becoming very exciting, and so as I'm teaching him these things, this graphic here is very fundamental, right? Thinking through these very looping, logic, storing, conditional things, functions, right? There's some very core, and when you look at these things, you can kind of almost interpret them in any language. There's just repeated shapes of these things.
Oh yeah,
written out in every single kind of language. And this is why I think this is so important to like understand these building blocks, because once you have these building blocks kind of understood, you can stand on top of them and build anything you want.
Yeah. It also supports the ongoing argument that any scripting or coding language is actually just another dialect on what you already know.
And with that, a great transition to just, here's a quick example. So on the left-hand side, I've got some Python. A equals 10, B equals 5. This is how you would write it in Python. Here, I'm going to add a sum together, and then I'm going to output the result. So I have the variable storage. I have some sort of logic that I'm in placing here, and then I'm doing a print or an action at the end.
Yeah.
Very similar language here, but notice the syntax differences, right? One, I have to be very technically there. I'm specifically calling out this value A has a data type. I'm also using these semicolons at the end here because it's very specific for that. Again, Python doesn't need the semicolons, but it needs proper spacing. So when we look at this, you could basically interpret many different languages different ways. The same logic can apply in many different languages. So this is just an example. This can translate to a lot of different things. SQL, you could use temp tables, all these other things where you're storing information temporarily while it executes or runs the code.
Oh yeah. And what I also love about Python is you don't have any line breaks. You just hit enter and then you're good to go. You don't need a line end. You don't need all those semicolons. It's just, yeah.
To the individual who was talking about YAML earlier, that's one of the advantages I really like about YAML. YAML is an interpretation of JSON. JSON is very, in this regard, syntax heavy like Java is, but YAML is not. It's very spacing. The syntax is very simple, but you can represent anything in JSON as a YAML document, which I find very human readable for me if I'm building things.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. So let's bring it back home here a little bit. We've talked about some abstract languages. We've talked about the concepts of what code is doing. It's how we communicate back to our computers about what we wanted to automate. So let's talk about what of the spectrum of code that is happening inside Fabric. What does this look like? What languages do we get our access to as we build inside Fabric and in Power BI? So some of these languages are only available to us in Power BI alone. That would be M and DAX. You have some access to SQL because you could run SQL queries against a server, but you're not going to go in Power BI alone and write Python or KQL. I mean, I guess you could write a KQL statement to go back to a database and go grab it, but like that's not like really the core of what I think Power BI is focusing on, right? Those are databases outside of the Power BI space.
Oh, yes.
When we add Fabric, we get all this rich stuff. And so the other thought here is languages are designed for specific things. So for example, like this, Java or C#, it's like could be a very heavy lifter, right? Some languages are very fast at using lots of large chunks of data or very efficient about a specific thing. You'll find that most languages are designed to do a specific thing based on the data structure underneath, how efficient it is, how fast it is to run. Other languages, again, like Python, our daily driver down here at the bottom, Python is meant to be used by every person. It's very simple to read. So it was designed for readability as opposed to high performance. Not a lot of people that I'm aware of or that in my space are writing C++, but that's high performance code that's running really fast. You need to be massive scale to run those things efficiently. And so we're not actually interested in using those codes. As we look at Fabric, we're doing a lot of SQL, Python, and KQL, but those are operating on top of our data systems.
Oh, yes. And also, pointing out Scala here, I don't know how many people who actually write Scala, because Scala is, yes, you can write it and you can learn it, but it's way easier just to write Python or SQL or M or whatever. As the former slides you just showed us, where the abbreviations on top of another language is actually made for us to easily grab it and treat it as just a dialect on what we already know and then use that. Whereas Scala is, to my extent, it's something new and it's a new way of writing it, and you have different variables, and I can't compare it to what I already know. Perhaps it's just me not putting in the hours, but Scala is, to my knowledge, not that widely used yet.
I would agree. And so I would also argue Scala is going to be one of those C++, very rudimentary, like very low level languages. And again, we can write Scala inside notebooks, inside Fabric, but what is my preference? What do I go to? I typically go to Spark SQL or PySpark. Those are my go-to languages. And the neat part is Scala is still underneath the hood. It's still there doing its job. We're just using another interpretive language like SQL or Python to talk to that system. So this is kind of where there's a couple slides here coming up that are going to really help us unpack this different structures of different languages and types as well.
And there's actually a comment here that if you have issues with YAML, use VS Code and the syntax highlighting will help a bunch. That's actually correct.
Great tip, actually. I love VS Code. I'm actually in VS Code a lot more than ever before. And GitHub, even more so, is my favorite website nowadays with all the new code that's coming out.
Yeah.
Awesome. So this is totally made up code. I just wrote something funny at the top of this. This header is not even real code. You can't run this anywhere. So I'm using def from Python. I'm using select star from SQL. And then I'm using some other function-based parameters. So it's just made up. But the idea here is like, when we think about what language we're writing, right? We're spending some amount of time to go, it's a spectrum, I think, in some degree. On the left-hand side, we have this pure Python, right? It's our Swiss Army knife. It can do so many things. You can install packages, a lot of functions. It makes it really easy for us to write with. I think I find SQL somewhere in the middle, right? SQL is like manipulating data. It's kind of easy like Python. It's a very understood, or, spending a little bit of time understanding, select these columns from this table helps you understand how to get the data out and represent it as a table. But then on the other end of the spectrum, you have like really hardcore programming languages, C#, Scala. These are ones that are like really designed for speed and high performance. And I don't really like writing in them, honestly. I like to err on the side of SQL and Python on the spectrum of things that I enjoy writing and using. So one thing will point out here, Python is great for notebooks. I think SQL runs the world. Like this is an understated language. Think about all the things that are actually running across the globe. MySQL, Spark, Scala. I mean, everything has like an interpreter on top of it that lets you write and select data using a SQL-like interface. Oracle, Microsoft has it, Azure databases, MySQL databases, SQLite. There's so much SQL around everything. I think you would pretty much, in any application, you'll stumble into some sort of SQL somewhere. And so this is where I really feel like if you're going to really spend some time kind of understanding or using AI to help you learn something, SQL is going to be a really good bet for your career and for helping you understand and build solutions, particularly in Fabric, with SQL. So it's so important that you kind of, gravitas towards Python and SQL, I think is really important for you. Brian, what do you think? What are your thoughts on this?
I totally agree, and I was a bit. My thoughts begin to ramble when you said that SQL runs the world. But when you put it out there that almost any application today uses SQL in some way or another, perhaps just a small select something from table or update something in a database. I totally agree, and I also totally agree that C++ is that's more of my day-to-day mindfulness programming when I try to do something with a small IoT device back home. And Python is where I get really professional and begin to work with arrays and data frames and manipulating data and all that kind of stuff. And SQL is just right there, spanking in the middle. I've been in the SQL world for more than 20 years. It's just like it just flows out of my fingers. Whereas Python, I'm still learning Python because it's so broad and it can do anything you want. And I really dig the flexibility of Python, because when you use it in Fabric and PySpark, then you don't have the full Python spectrum, but you have what you need when you need to handle your data state and move data and translate it and filter it and clean it up. Then you have what you need. And if you don't have what you need, you can always go back to Python and just write a Python notebook, and then you're good to go.
I like where you're going with this one, and I think your observations around Python are very spot on, and those are reflections of my world as well. That's how I've also kind of felt about it as well. It's very diverse, and that's why it's like the Swiss Army knife. It can do basically anything you want.
Yeah. We have a tiny comment from our moderators that we need to speed things up a tiny bit.
All right, we will go faster. Sorry, we're getting too excited about the code. All right, so let's go a bit more into the language pieces here. So let's talk to our crew. Let's talk to our languages here. So we're gonna kind of cruise through these. We're gonna touch on a lot of different languages. The concepts of what we're building, I think, are out there. We've discussed those. Let's go into the actual languages. SQL. Let's point out where we can find SQL directly inside Fabric. So I try to do it my best to kind of point out a couple things. You're going to find SQL inside your Python or your SQL notebooks. You can do a T-SQL notebook. You're going to do Spark SQL inside notebooks. You're going to have a data warehouse, and you now have SQL databases. So Brian, give me some experiences. What is your experience with these tools and using SQL directly in the solutions?
The experience here is just amazing, because it is you almost don't recognize that it is a different engine that behind the scenes, because for most of the service you have in Fabric, you have an interpreter in SQL that translates things into other languages, and you don't see that in Fabric. Of course, not in the SQL database, that's just SQL, but the other ways around, when you write SQL in a notebook, it's translated into Scala. And also, I think you are missing one here. You are actually missing the event house, because the event house can actually also accept SQL.
Yes.
It is perhaps a well-hidden feature here, but you can write T-SQL against your event house also. So
awesome. I was actually thinking that was more KQL or Kusto.
Yeah.
But it does both,
there,
right?
there is a small catch here that you can actually write SQL, some of SQL, towards your event house and KQL database. So,
awesome.
But we can get back to that later.
We'll have another slide for that KQL stuff in here in a second. Exactly. So this is our superpower, right? Select stuff, join things. The one of the things I will note here about SQL, when I was working early days in Power BI, I found that when I'm building a visual, the dimensions and the measures that I put on there, it's like auto-generated SQL to some degree.
Oh yeah.
Because every time I add a new measure in SQL, I would say sum this column as, and then name the column.
Group by something.
The measure can capture that repeatable sum or averaging or other complex logic, and we can just draw that into any visual. And so one of the things I loved was when you think about a visual on a Power BI canvas, it's kind of like SQL. Select these columns with these aggregations, and then you have a where condition for any of the filtering that's on the page or the visual. So again, when I think about SQL, this is such an impactful language. If you understand and can think through things like SQL, it will translate to building visuals, filter panes. You can actually reinterpret the language and information that you see in a SQL-like way. So I think it's super powerful.
And also the power behind SQL is actually, and perhaps not many people know this, but SQL is now a full language where you can actually also build applications directly in SQL Management Studio using SQL. Because you have functions, you have stored procedures, you have visuals. You can actually also draw things on your result pane in SQL Management Studio using SQL. So there are some pretty nifty tips and tricks, and also some pretty nerdy people out there trying to bend the SQL server to their command.
I love it.
So I love it.
All right, on to our next kind of cool language here. Python enters the ring. So Python, this is our Swiss Army knife. You can do so many things here. Some things I want to really point out here is you'll hear things like pandas. You'll hear things like request. There's all these things called packages and modules that happen and occur inside Python. So Python is a collection of functions, and sometimes I may want to reuse those functions. So pandas is a whole bunch of data and math transformations. I want to grab this data frame. I want to add a new column. I want to shape the data. I want to put two data frames together or two tables together, merge them. Pandas is this language that helps you build those things. Now, Microsoft has also built their own package, and it's called Semantic Link. Semantic Link allows you to load into the Python notebooks a tool set that can let you directly talk to semantic models. You can go right to a semantic model, and it does more than that. It does a lot of other things in addition to that. If you use Semantic Link Labs, which is like the early preview of Semantic Link, that also allows you to do a lot of other things. Talk to APIs, talk to semantic models, query data. There's a whole bunch of Swiss Army-like things that give you a ton of capability here. And I'm kind of putting these things down, Brian, is maybe like where my favorites are. I think my favorite by far is SQL, just for fundamental knowledge. I think my second favorite here is Python. It's so versatile, and it does so many different things, especially when you start adding packages or modules like Semantic Link or Pandas. It can do so much. What are your thoughts?
I totally agree, because if you look at Python, you can actually quite quickly create a mock-up of an application with a very few lines of code, because in Python, you both have the backend, you have the middleware, and you can also create a front end using Python. And with the Semantic Link that you just called out here is the amazing toolset behind Semantic Link. You can actually get information about your semantic model. Hey, you forgot this reference. Hey, you have missing links here. Hey, your semantic model has errors or has optimization purposes here and there. So Python is, to me, also my go-to scripting coding language, whereas SQL is used, from my extent, only to data manipulation, data creation, store procedures, all that kind of stuff. So yes, Python is, and it's also quite easy to learn, because you don't have line ends. You just have a line break, and then you indent it, and then you have a function.
Easy,
just by magic. So
simple. So moving on then. Okay, so now I'm going to come back over here. So we've talked about like SQL, we've talked about Python. And so let's talk about like a lower level language. So
Yes.
Scala, you can write Scala inside a notebook. You go into a Fabric workspace, create a notebook. You can, in the notebook, make a Scala cell, but Scala is a bit difficult to write. It's very syntax heavy. It's very particular about what you write inside the Scala cell, inside that notebook. But to our advantage here, and this is why I brought the other two languages above this, I still like SQL. I still like Python.
Yes.
And so Scala runs on this thing called the Java Virtual Machine. They call it the JVM. That's what happens at behind the scenes when it's running. Again, the Scala is like our race car, right? Scala is the thing that goes extremely fast, highly proficient. You know, we're talking like massive, multiple parallel computing across multiple machines and computers. This can help you manipulate and move lots of data. But I still get the syntax ease of PySpark and Spark SQL. Now, it's not straight SQL, it's not T-SQL, it's not full Python, but you get so much capability from these other languages. And this is what I think is really interesting here is these Python and Spark languages are being built into frameworks because everyone likes them, because it's easy to use. It's easy to understand how to leverage this.
Oh, yeah.
Brian, what do you thought here on this one?
And also Scala, as I set out, as I called out a few slides back, is not broadly used, but it can actually be quite powerful when you learn how to use it, because it just executes faster. You don't have the interpreter on top of it where it has to translate things. I know this happens within a few milliseconds, but the translations could be not optimal according to the standard Scala. So if you know how to write Scala and you know how to bend the Java virtual machine to your needs, then you can actually write more performant code if you want to. But in the power that we have right now, both in whatever implementation we have of Scala, it doesn't matter, because the translation between the languages happens so fast. Yes. So the effort you need to put in to write Scala in the performant way is outweighed by the performance you get out of the upper levels of scripting languages.
This is interesting you bring this up, because I feel like this Scala conversation is very much a balancing act, right?
Yeah,
sure. Is it easy to write versus the performance I get, right? You could just say, throw away the PySpark and the Spark SQL and just say, I'm just going to only write Scala, and it'll probably be really fast and very performant. But you have to be really honed in and specific to like the Scala language. So for me, this is a really good blend of, I really like the performance of Scala, but I like the ease of writing Python. I like the ease of writing SQL. And what happens is those languages are interpreted, like compiled basically down to Scala, and then Scala runs on the Java virtual machine, the JVM. So that's kind of a thing here as well.
Yeah, it's just a simple seesaw, right? Which one do I want the most? So yeah,
exactly right. All right, here's the best one, Brian. For you, I want to let Brian lead this whole thing. Brian, to you.
So in the ring now, we have KQL, the Kusto query language, which sits on top of many services in Azure. Perhaps you don't know it, but the Kusto query language sits on top of any Kusto engine. The Kusto engine services a lot of services inside Azure. It serves Sentinel, Log Analytics, Event House, and also Azure Streaming Analytics. The KQL language is the scripting language you use to query your event-based data, your IoT data, your streaming data, your log data, whatever data you have that constantly comes into your database. The power behind the KQL language is that it is actually as easy to write as if I were to tell you, Mike, to create a query. I could say, from this table, take 100 rows and summarize it by this column. Right there, I actually said out loud a full correct syntax in KQL. Because you start with the table, then you do a pipe, and then you filter, take 100 rows or something, and then you do the summarization or whatever you want to do. And also the power of really knowing your KQL language is that if you want to do, let's say, outlier detection, you can do that in one line of code. And it's not like one line of code, I'm cheating because I'm putting everything in one line, but it's actually 200 characters a line, and then you're good to go. Then you have an outlier detection on hundreds of thousands of rows within a few milliseconds. You have that resource set. And behind the scenes here, you have the KQL engine executing whatever query you're hitting it to. But we also have the KQL query set, which it looks like a notebook that we could get out of Fabric, just a notebook, and then I could execute the notebook. But the KQL query set is just a dumb placeholder for your queries. You can't execute a KQL notebook, a KQL query set. You can store your queries there and then execute them manually by hitting Shift Enter. But the query set is just a notebook that sits there to actually handle to save your scripts. And as I said just before, if you don't know KQL, write it in SQL.
Yep.
Select star from table something. Write it in SQL, and then the engine translates that SQL again from PySpark to Scala. It translates from SQL to KQL and executes the query. If you want to learn KQL out of your SQL, you can just at the very line just before your SQL write explain and then execute it again, and then you get a translated KQL statement from your SQL. So the KQL language is built for speed. It is built for getting your IT and log data straight out of the database very, very fast. It's easy to learn because you can actually write it as you speak it, and you can learn it by using SQL. So, Mike, have you tried anything about KQL? What's your biggest surprise around Kusto?
Yeah, so surprise for me is it's a very interesting, like it's different than what I'm used to writing. So I'm used to writing SQL, I'm used to writing Python. So it's a little bit of a syntax difference for me, but I have also found it to be straightforward, and it could do, so my understanding of KQL was it was really designed for this hyper volume of like messaging systems, queuing, getting all the things. So if you think about Power BI, every time someone clicks on open a report, get some data, make a report, create a semantic model, all of those are events that are then being fired off somewhere into the Microsoft ecosystem. Those are being stored at some level.
Yes.
If you think about the volume, okay, my company is, decent size, but let's imagine everyone using Power BI, right? This is the scale we're talking about. So, in the world. So we're talking like millions of users and companies that are leveraging this system. Well, how do you get analytics back about what you're doing? I also think about all the things in Azure, all the events that are happening, databases that are turning on, logs that are being generated. Every query coming back to your semantic model is something you can get your hands on. Like this is all real data. It's log files or log things that are crossed everywhere. So I believe the KQL system was really derived from, look, we've got to get a better way of querying and getting our hands around all this data. And so Azure was the start of it. Now we've got it inside Fabric, and now we can leverage all these real-time log syncs. So this is a technology Microsoft themselves needed to develop just to figure out what was in their ecosystem and what people were doing. And then it becomes, okay, well, great. Now that we understand how the system works, let's bake this and drop it into other tools, particularly Fabric, and leveraging them. So that's my mental model of like where I see KQL fitting the ecosystem of languages, right? Logging, high volumes of data. It's your CU usage sent to a KQL database, so you can go leverage that. So when you do workspace monitoring, KQL stands up. KQL tells you all the actions that are happening on your workspaces or your entire Fabric tenant. That's the scale of what we're talking about here. Big scale, high efficiency, and it runs very efficient from a cost perspective. You're not chewing through lots of slow data to get to your answers. Is that a good summary, Brian, of kind of like where it came from?
Yeah, it's completely correct, and it actually comes from a tribute to Jacques Cousteau, who devoted his life to explore the ocean, of the life beneath the sea. I guess the correct sentence is here. And KQL is built to explore the ocean of data. So and what many people perhaps don't know, that KQL can also traverse your graph semantics. So if you have any graph database and you want to traverse your graph database, perhaps you have a virus entering the network, and then you can see all the logs where that virus transposes into all the other services. If you have that in a graph database or on a graph structure, KQL is quite powerful to find the entry point and find out what laptop did we end up with the virus in or something. So the Cousteau is good for both SQL, structured, unstructured, and graph structures. So
amazing.
It is a powerhouse.
All right, let's jump into our favorite hidden language. This is the one that no one writes, but everyone uses.
Exactly.
Right? So M is the language behind Power Query. So when I look at anyone who's using Power BI desktop or Power BI just natively, this runs everything, right? This is loading all your data tables. This is doing data transformations. And I have here even data flows Gen 1 and data flows Gen 2, because these are supporting all of the UI around Power Query. This also supports, I don't know, the billion users that are inside Excel that could be using import, using the Power Query experience there as well, import your data. So this is a hidden tool that many people are not directly leveraging today, either in Excel and also now in data flows and data flows Gen 2. Really recommend this is a good language. Now, the neat part about this is you don't need to actually know the language, honestly. I don't really write M very much. And instead, I actually use the Power Query UI to write the M language. And that's what I use a lot of times now. Brian, your thoughts?
Yeah, I totally agree. And there's actually, I know one person who writes M like we write SQL.
Oh, Powers.
Yeah, but also
he dreams an M. Actually, when he takes a dream, he's dreaming. He literally dreams an M code. That's how he
dreams an M code. Yeah. But there's also the author behind the. I think is he a co-author behind the Power Query book? Rick de Groot from Holland.
Oh yes, Rick's also a very big M person.
Oh yeah.
Gil Revive is another one who wrote another book around multiple M and Power Query functions as well. So. Really strong language.
But it's totally true that the support in the UI where you just point and click and do something in Power BI or data flows, that translates into M. So again, we have an abbreviation above a language where you do it interactively in the UI, and then that is translated into a language, and then that language is executed. But if you want the real power of Power Query or M, then you need to learn it and write it yourself, because whatever you're doing in the UI might not be the most optimal way of doing it in the coding language. So again, if you want the power of any language, you need to learn it and write it yourself, or use the abbreviation and get the seesaw. Do I want the good performance, or do I want it to the ease of use? So totally
awesome. Totally agree with this one. So M's a great language, but you're probably not going to go use it directly. And now our favorite of all of them, the DAX language, the one that we're most familiar with across anything that is Power BI related. DAX is the language of the semantic model. So it helps you build calculated columns, calculated tables. And I'm going to throw in a funny one here, right? So it helps you build those explicit measures, which is the name of my podcast that we run. And so explicit measures is the thing that we're using to leverage the reuse of that business logic in those measures as well. Also, recently added, I guess in the last year or so, is the user-defined functions now inside DAX. So now you want to leverage DAX over and over and over again. That's what the UDF is for. So what are your thoughts here, Brian?
I totally agree that DAX is it can be easy when you begin to work with it, but when you begin to learn it, you just learn that hey, DAX is not easy, and to get a good performance, you need to write it the right way. And in order to get good performance and to get it to do fast things, you always need to consider. I have this Italian voice in my head. What's the filter context? You know, and speaking of fast, we are getting pushed by
to the next slide.
Users to run things quickly.
We will. Let's keep going ahead. So let's go ahead. We talked about the similarities, kind of the difference of languages. Like, let's just quickly burn through this one, right? We're going to be doing loops, variables, conditions. That's the syntax or the language we're using through all these different languages. So this is the common part. But what about AI, right? Where does this fit, right? So our language choices are really going to help us define what we're specializing in. Are we going to be innovative? Are we going to use generative AI to help us build things? This is potentially going to inform some of our language choices. So because of this, we're going to go over here and you can know multiple languages. You can choose them. You can understand them. The fundamentals are going to be essential across all these languages, no matter what. But your superpower becomes AI, adding Copilot into this experience. So one thing I've had an aha moment here is I have had this incredible experience with understanding that every time I talk to a large language model, even if I don't know the language very well, the AI understands entirely all the syntax, all the hard parts, everything about that language. Now, it may not know my business logic, but if I tell it to write something, give me a function that does X, here's the inputs, here's the desired output, it's really good at writing any kind of function or SQL or helping me tune things with AI. So this is kind of where I want to take some thoughts here. As we think about when we add AI plus our Python, we now can automate some of our data transformations. One of the things that I think is really interesting here is when you're inside a notebook, you can use Data Wrangler. Data Wrangler is using some level of AI to help you shape and conform functions or define repeatable transformations to your code. If you use AI in SQL, now you get kind of smarter queries and you can start optimizing and tuning them. You also get the ability to create views using the AI. I don't have to I can just tell it what I want, and the AI can now generate the view for me, and then I can reuse it in my applications. Or I could also, exercise, well, this view isn't very performant, AI. Can you help me review it? How do we make it better? I can give you some suggestions there. And then you're now using AI with the Fabric MCP server. So you can have a Power BI MCP server. You can now tell your large language model, go make me some DAX measures, make me some common sums, hide these columns, move them to a folder. So a lot of these task-based efforts are now being automated with AI. And now I have no fear. And again, Brian, you're probably also in this space as well. Right?
Sure.
We're venturing into Python. We're maybe not experts in them, but guess what? I have a fully knowledgeable, 100% right about the syntax and all the functions that are Python. And that's my AI buddy.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
And also, if you sprinkle that with an introduction to your AI on how you think, what's your business logic, how your business works, what's your behind the scenes knowledge, and then you give it a so-called skill, then you get the best of both worlds, because you get AI sprinkled with what you know and what kind of way you are writing your code, and then it just gives you not 100% all the time answer, but it can nudge you in the right way. So when you use AI, I do that all the time also, yes, but I'm also having my human eyes and my human thoughts about it. Is this correct? Is this the right way to do it before just implementing it blindly?
And I love that point there, because another thing here is, I'll just kind of maybe move on to our next slide, which I think is a very relevant one here as well. It's your assistant, right? So it's GitHub Copilot. It's Copilot in Microsoft 365, right? If you don't understand something, select the bit of code you don't understand and say, explain this, rewrite it, help me understand. So this is one of the things that I found really interesting. Recently, I was trying to bring two tables together. And in these two tables, I said, I need to merge these two tables. And it used this function called meld, M-E-L-D, I think was what the function was in Python. Either melt or meld. I can't remember exactly the name of it. But that function, I've never seen it before in Python. And I said, well, what is this? Hey, AI, help me understand. Write me an example and explain to me what this function specifically does. And this is where I thought was really interesting. And again, this is where it's reinforming how I think about languages and coding, is I can now let the code be written by AI, check that it looks right. And if I don't understand it, I ask it to give me examples, help me explain it, help me understand what it's doing. So now, in addition to writing code to solve problems, I'm learning in line with all of that as well, which I think this is like rocket science to some degree. Like, this is amazing that I can build the plane while flying it. Kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And you can build the plane while flying. And when you have these agents, you can actually have more than one agent working for you in parallel. So if you wanted to have Copilot helping you writing good DAX measures or good Power Query, then it will think and do that for you. And then you can start another agent saying, hey, I want to create, give me all the standard Power BI measures for time intelligence. Then it will also do that in parallel. So you can actually branch yourself out and be more awesome every day using AI without, sorry.
That's great. No, I love it. Absolutely love it. Here's the latest twist in some AI coding. So we're going to give you some tips and tricks here as we wrap, right? So inside the agentic coding space, you're going to hear about these terms. These are things that you're going to want to understand and start putting your head around these things. Not every tool today uses them, but you're going to see these evolving more and more, particularly around the Fabric ecosystem. One of them is called a skill, right? Let me give you some concept here. When you build with an AI, build with it. Start a new chat session. Work with the AI to build some single thing. And then say, hey, AI, I'd like you to create a skill around this. And what it does is it creates a simple to read markdown file. Here's the title. Here's what I'm doing. Here's the objectives. Here's the skills. Here's the knowledge I need as an AI. to reuse and build that skill. The neat thing about skills is a skill is a transferable process you can lift from one agentic session to the next to the next. It's reusable. This is code reuse. So we've just made a variable, we've made a process that we can build with the AI using these things called skills. So stay tuned. There's going to be a lot more you're going to hear in the future about skills, how to leverage them. You're going to see them show up a lot more in the Microsoft Fabric ecosystem. And then the other thing here is you need to understand Markdown files. Markdown files are very easy to read. Every GitHub page you go to, there's a README file. The README file is written in Markdown. It's very easy to read. It's written to be like a library of information. You can make tables, formatting, basic things. Honestly, if I could throw away Word and just use Markdown files, I would, because there's so much. I love the code side of things. It's so easy for me to write. And the AI also knows really easily how to leverage Markdown files in there as well. So highly recommend these two things. Anything else, Brian, you would add around some tips or tricks around agentic coding that you love?
Yes. If you don't know how to write a skill, you can actually also find websites where skills are pre-baked for you, pre-cooked, where you can just download it and then read through it and then learn how it's done. And then if you want to change it, just change whatever wordings you want. And then that skill is now a part of your skill set, not your personal skill set, but your agentic coding skill set.
Yeah, exactly right. Hey, when I write semantic models, this is how we write them. Hey, when I write a dimension table, it has dim space the name of the table. When I write a fact table, it has fact space the name of the table. Now you can start talking directly to your agentic developers, your AI coders, and now it will understand the patterns you use across your building experiences, which I think is absolutely amazing.
And what I always add to my skills is please do not use the M dash when you write text.
Oh, yes. I can't stand that. It's a dead giveaway of AI-based writing things. So another kind of tip or trick here with agentic coding is describe what you want. Let it have a little bit of flexibility. You're letting the AI develop the code for you a little bit. So the idea is a volley experience. I need to write this SQL. I need a Python notebook that does this. Volley that back over to the AI, let it build something first, and then kind of work with it, right? It's not going to get it right every single time because it doesn't understand what you know. You still need the human in the loop. You have to be there to help guide it. So this is this volleying back and forth experience.
Exactly. We actually have a question from the audience. Do skills relate to MCP responses, or are they the same thing?
Oh, great question. An MCP server is a communication kind of protocol that lets my large language model understand how to write things. For example, I have a Tyndall file or I have a Power BI semantic model. If I tell the MCP server, hey, I want you to build a new measure, the MCP server has the business logic of, okay, it has to be written this exact way. Here's the functions I can use. Here's the DAX I can leverage. That's what the MCP server will do. A skill is knowledge that you give or you use to the AI that can then use the MCP server. So for example, the skill would say, when I'm making measures, this is the format of them. When I'm writing measures in my semantic model, I put my measures in the fact tables and not in the dimension tables. A skill says, when we talk to a Power BI report, we want to use the Power BI MCP server in order to communicate. Load that tool first, and then talk to your user about things. So the skill is really like the business logic or essential knowledge points I need the agentic AI thing to know, and then it leverages MCP things as well. So they're a close pairing, but they are distinctly two different items.
I see them as your skill is your business logic, your human voice translated, and the translator is in the MCP server, translating what you want to do into not machine code, but machine, listenable code.
Love that. Very, very good. All right, moving on here. So what we should really start focusing on, where does AI, so we talked a lot about syntax earlier. We talked about these different languages. Don't be scared of them. You've got a buddy with you already right beside you. I can't tell you the number of times I use Copilot chat in my browser window, literally in my Edge. I open the Copilot up. I'll just send it a question. Great. I'll go to other search services, use a question, boom, done. So you should not really be worried about the syntax of writing the code. Focus more of your attention on the outcome of your code. What do you need it to do? How do you want to leverage it? What is this solving for you? If you become more outcome focused, the AI and the coding languages just become a tool that you're going to use. And you don't have to worry about knowing every single thing about Python. You've got this ultra knowledgeable AI thing to help you understand everything.
Oh yeah, agree.
All right, final slide here.
Final slide.
Yes, what now, right? We've talked about our foundation. You have to understand foundational parts about code, loops, variables, saving things, right? Yeah, there's a lot of distinction between the different languages, but you've got a coding buddy, right? So embrace your strategy embrace a strategy that drives efficiency, right? Think about outcomes, think about the output, leverage the AI of what it's good at. It's good at writing all the syntax. You are really good at building the process, how to get things done, what's going to add value for your team members and your business. So this is really where I think the AI is going to really assist us. The creator economy leveraging AI is getting a big win right now.
Oh yeah,
I'm very excited about this. And so I think this is going to be the future of what we do moving forward. All right, that being said, let's move on to our final slides here. Fabric Data Days. I want to call off a couple little announcements here as we wrap. Make sure you are checking this link out. Fabric Data Days is coming on March 26th, 2026. There's going to be a monthly event moving forward. So this is great. We'd love you to get engaged. Here again, check out our Fabric user panel. We definitely want to make sure you're participating here and getting engaged with the Fabric user panel as well. Use this link below to sign up and get engaged. If you want your free DP 600 or DP 700, check out this exam as well. This is another link for you to get engaged here. Fabric Pam will check out your announcement here, and she'll make sure we can get you get your free voucher. So definitely make sure you engage here and get your free exam. This is awesome and great learning for everyone.
Oh, there's a free voucher. Go.
Exactly, free. Don't say we didn't give you anything. Microsoft Fabric Conference. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Save $200 by using the code FABLIVE. Definitely want to come. Make sure you show up. I'll be there. We'll be doing some great sessions. There's going to be a ton of learning happening. A lot of good examples. This is the community. I love these events. These are getting really good for me, and they're growing in size. So I really would encourage you. We're doing both Fabric and SQL at the same conference. This is going to be amazing. All right, and finally here, thank you very much for all of our moderators. Moderators, you did a great job. You've been in the chat the entire time. Wonderful job at getting through everything. We really appreciate you. Brian, this has been a blast. Thank you so much for presenting with me on this one. This has been super fun, and I think this has been super enjoyable for me. Any other final words, Brian, before we wrap here?
I also want to thank the moderators and also the producers, because they are doing a tremendous job to make these things happen. We are live. We are just showing up and we get the slides. The moderators, they're doing all the work. Mike and I, we're just chatting about slides and talking about it, having fun. I also hope that all the
this could have been a 2-hour session.
Exactly.
We could have been 2 hours.
Thank you to everybody. It has been a blast yet again. So
thank you all so much, and we appreciate you.
Yeah. Have a great day, evening, night, wherever you are.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Mike, for the session today. And thank you all for joining us. We are always looking to improve our sessions and your experience. So if you have any feedback for us, we would love to hear what you have to say. You can find the link to our survey on the screen or in the chat. And we'll see you in the next one.